January 18th, 2026. Snow falling sideways across Foxborough. Houston's defense doing everything short of carrying the offense into the end zone. And C.J. Stroud, the quarterback famous for never giving the football away, could not stop handing it to New England. First interception, a throw he forced into a window that wasn't there. Second, a ball that hung long enough for a defender to break on it like he'd read the play call. Third, a pick six that sucked the air out of Houston's sideline. Fourth, another turnover before halftime. 4 interceptions in 30 minutes, against a team that wasn't supposed to be here. Stroud had thrown 8 picks across the entire regular season. He'd just matched half that total before the second half kickoff. And the easy excuse was sitting right there. Blame the offensive line. Blame the snow. Blame the missing receivers. Those things were real, but they weren't new, and they no longer explained everything. Because here's what nobody wanted to say out loud. Stroud's sack total had dropped from 52 to 23. The pocket wasn't perfect, but it was better. The protection had improved. So why did he still play like the rush was already in his face? That question doesn't have a simple answer. But to even ask it the right way, we need to go back to a test that once told NFL teams C.J. Stroud's brain wasn't fast enough for professional football. Before we go further, this is not a hit piece. We're not here to call Stroud a bust, and we're not here to blame every bad throw on somebody else. What we are going to do is trace 4 versions of the same quarterback. The prospect nobody believed in, the rookie who made the league look stupid, the young star who absorbed 52 sacks and kept getting back up, and the uneven passer who got more efficient in 2025 while pressure kept warping his decisions. We'll separate what Stroud controlled from what Houston built around him, and we'll confront the one question that matters more than any stat line. Has 2 years of punishment rewired his instincts so that he's reacting to hits that haven't happened yet? If you want stories that go deeper than highlights and box scores, subscribe, because that's what this channel is built for. C.J. Stroud didn't walk into college football through the front door. He grew up in Rancho Cucamonga, California, without the 5-star ranking, without the blue blood offers, without anyone calling him the next great quarterback. Bigger names had that. Stroud had a chip and a late invitation. The Elite 11, the most competitive quarterback camp in the country, brought him in as one of the lowest-ranked arms in the field. He left as the MVP. That weekend forced every evaluator in the building to recalibrate. Ryan Day at Ohio State watched the tape, picked up the phone, and offered a scholarship. And that became the pattern. Every time somebody raised the bar, Stroud cleared it by a margin that made you wonder why the bar was ever that low. The 2022 Peach Bowl, Georgia, a national title berth on every snap. Stroud threw for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns. When the pocket collapsed, he didn't panic. He escaped, created outside the structure, and ripped off a 27-yard run on Ohio State's final drive. The kind of play that makes you forget he was ever supposed to be just a passer. Then, days before the 2023 draft, a number leaked that changed the entire conversation. Reports surfaced that Stroud had scored poorly on the S2 Cognition test, an evaluation NFL teams used to measure how quickly a quarterback processes a changing picture. Suddenly, nobody was questioning his arm. They were questioning his brain. Could he read an NFL defense fast enough to survive at the next level? Stroud didn't duck it. He looked at the cameras and said, "I'm a football player. I'm not an S2 taker." DeMeco Ryans backed that up. He told reporters the test played 0 role in Houston's evaluation. The Texans trusted what they saw on film, what they heard from Ohio State teammates, and the calm they felt sitting across from Stroud in a room. Houston took him 2nd overall, and the league waited to see if the test was right. His rookie season made the test look like a joke. Stroud didn't just play well in 2023. He played like a quarterback who had already been in the league for 3 years. His best trait wasn't the arm, although the arm was special. It was what happened after his first read disappeared. Most young quarterbacks speed up. Stroud slowed down. He'd slide 6 inches inside the pocket, reset his base, and find the next answer as if the rush didn't exist. The Tampa Bay game in November was the night the league stopped wondering. What started as a football game turned into a heavyweight fight. Baker Mayfield gave the Buccaneers a 4-point lead with 46 seconds left. 46 seconds. Most rookie quarterbacks are mentally packing their bags at that point. Stroud jogged onto the field like he was running a 2-minute drill in July. 5 completions, 75 yards. A touchdown to Tank Dell with 6 seconds on the clock. Houston 39, Tampa Bay 37. Stroud finished with 470 passing yards, a rookie record, and 5 touchdowns, tying another rookie record. 0 interceptions. 0 moments where the game looked too big for him. Then came the wild card round. Cleveland, the #1 defense in the NFL by yards allowed. This was supposed to be the wall the rookie couldn't climb. Instead, Stroud completed 16 of 21 passes for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 157.2 passer rating, 1 decimal away from perfect. By season's end, 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His 1.0 interception rate led the entire league, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And if you watched the film, you saw something the numbers couldn't fully capture. A quarterback who made small movements instead of dramatic escapes, who kept his feet quiet and his eyes downfield, who threw receivers open before the window even appeared on your television screen. Houston helped him. Bobby Slowick called a sharp game. Nico Collins emerged as a true #1. Tank Dell brought speed and an unspoken trust with his quarterback. But even in the middle of all that success, there was a signal nobody wanted to hear. Stroud took 38 sacks in 15 starts. A concussion cost him 2 games late in the year. The hits were already accumulating. Winning just kept the bruises out of the headlines. Houston looked at that rookie season and decided the window was open. Time to build for a Super Bowl. They added weapons. They added playmakers. What they didn't add was the one thing Stroud's game depended on most: a wall sturdy enough to let his brain work at its natural speed. And in 2024, that failure cost him. Patience had run out in Houston. The Texans weren't a cute rebuilding story anymore. After winning the division and a playoff game with a rookie quarterback, anything less than a deep January run would feel like regression. The offseason was aggressive. Stephon Diggs arrived. Joe Mixon arrived. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. The cupboard was stocked. Stroud called it a 5-headed monster. On paper, every route had an answer. The protection didn't get the same upgrade. Green Bay exposed it early. At Lambeau Field, the Packers pressured Stroud on over half his dropbacks, while sending 5 or more rushers less than 18% of the time. Think about what that means. 4 defenders were generating pressure. That left 7 men in coverage. Stroud had less time to throw and fewer places to throw it. That's a trap with no exit. He finished 10 of 21 for 86 yards. 4 sacks. Houston lost by 2. And then the receivers started vanishing. Collins missed 5 games with a hamstring injury. Diggs tore his ACL. Done for the year. In December, Dell suffered a dislocated kneecap and a torn ACL. Those losses shrank Stroud's margin to almost nothing. But the core problem existed before any of them got hurt. Too many snaps had become survival drills. Stroud wasn't running an offense. He was running from the rush and hoping something opened before he went down. 52 sacks during the regular season, and in 7 of Houston's 8 losses, including the playoff defeat in Kansas City, he was sacked at least 4 times. Kansas City was the final exam. In the divisional round, the Chiefs sacked him 8 times and hit him 14. Stroud still threw for 245 yards without an interception and scrambled for 42 more on a bad knee. He kept getting up. He kept moving the chains. That took guts no stat sheet can measure. But courage gets a quarterback through one afternoon. It can't undo what hundreds of rushed, compressed survival mode snaps do to a man's instincts over the course of 2 years. Houston responded the only way it could. Bobby Slowick was fired. Offensive line coach Chris Strausser was fired. The Texans could change the play caller, the blocking scheme, and the bodies up front. The question was whether the damage had already moved somewhere the front office couldn't reach. Houston's answer to the 2024 disaster was loud. Nick Caley came in as offensive coordinator. The front office gutted the offensive line, traded Laramie Tunsil and Kenyon Green, released Shaq Mason, and brought in a wave of veterans and draft picks. The message was clear. We know we broke the pocket, and we're going to rebuild it. The early results didn't cooperate. Houston opened 2025 with 3 straight losses. Caley's system was still being installed, protections were still leaking, and Stroud looked caught between 2 bad choices: hold the ball and take a hit, or throw it early and miss. Then Baltimore showed up on the schedule, and for one afternoon, the 2023 version of C.J. Stroud walked back through the door. 23 of 27. 244 yards, 4 touchdowns. A 143.9 passer rating. Houston won 44-10. The ball came out on time. The throws had conviction. The pocket held. And if you didn't know the context, you'd think this quarterback had never been touched. One game doesn't settle anything. But across the full season, something interesting showed up in the numbers. Stroud's sack rate dropped from 8.37% to 4.88. His average release time fell from 2.81 seconds to 2.68. And the value Houston was getting from the average Stroud dropback climbed back to the same level he'd posted as a rookie. On paper, the fix was working. The traditional totals, 3,041 yards, 19 touchdowns, looked ordinary. But the underlying efficiency said the offense was producing more with each play. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. When the pocket was clean and a receiver was open, Stroud still ranked just 25th among qualified quarterbacks in performance. When pressure arrived, his adjusted completion rate cratered, from 74% down to 57%. His passing grade under duress was one of the worst in the league. The sacks were down. The flinch was still there. There were snaps where the protection held. The receiver broke open, and Stroud still rushed the throw or hesitated a half-second too long. He'd sped up his release as a mechanical fix, but sometimes the speed came from anxiety, not anticipation. And the home road split made it impossible to look away. At NRG Stadium, his passer rating sat at 107.4. On the road, it fell to 81.3. 7 of his 8 interceptions came away from Houston. Home was safe. The road was where the ghosts lived. None of this proves 2024 permanently broke him. Quarterback play depends on blocking, scheme, weapons, opponents, and 100 variables nobody can isolate perfectly. But the pattern pointed towards something troubling. Stroud was escaping more sacks with his legs while still bracing for contact in his mind. Then, in Week 9 against Denver, he tucked the ball on a scramble. 6 yards. Nothing play. But the landing wasn't nothing. Stroud left the field with a concussion. Houston lost 18-15, and a team built for January was suddenly sitting at 3-5 wondering if the season was over. It wasn't. Davis Mills stepped in, won all 3 of his starts, and delivered one of the wildest comebacks of the season, erasing a 19-point fourth-quarter deficit against Jacksonville. Give Mills credit. That took nerve. But keep the full picture in focus. Houston's defense was suffocating opponents, controlling field position, and handing the offense short fields. Those wins didn't prove Mills was better than Stroud. They proved something more important for this story. Houston's roster was good enough to win without its quarterback carrying every possession on his back. When Stroud returned against Indianapolis, he admitted the rust was real. Houston won 20-16, and then the Texans caught fire. 9 straight victories to close the regular season, the last 6 with Stroud under center. Against the Chargers, he opened 4 for 4, dropping a 75-yard strike to Jaden Higgins and a 43-yarder to Jalen Noel. 2 plays, 2 touchdowns, 14-0 Houston before the Chargers' offense had time to blink. That was the version everyone wanted to see. The deep ball, the anticipation, the fearlessness. And with an elite defense behind him, Stroud didn't have to win every game by himself. The system was built to protect him, on the field and from himself. The temptation was obvious. Believe the storm had passed. But January quarterbacks eventually face a drive where the defense can't bail them out. And that's when the truth about the man behind center comes through the screen. Wild card night in Pittsburgh looked clean on the scoreboard. Houston 30, Pittsburgh 6. The defense mauled the Steelers. Stroud threw for 250 yards and a touchdown. But look closer. Stroud put the ball on the ground 5 times. Houston recovered 3 and lost 2. He also threw an interception. Against a better team, those mistakes end your season. This time, the defense buried every consequence under a 24-point margin. 1 week later in New England, the margin was gone. Snow made every catch harder, but Snow didn't force those decisions. The Patriots crowded the throwing lanes, closed windows after the snap, and punished every hesitation. 14 of Stroud's 47 attempts went into tight coverage. Nearly 30%, a career high. He completed 2 of them. When the picture tightened, his decisions sped up, but in the wrong direction. Some balls arrived late. Others never had a safe destination. He was throwing to escape pressure, not to move the chains. 20 completions on 47 attempts, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, a 28.0 passer rating, the worst of his career. Across both playoff games, 5 interceptions and 2 lost fumbles. 7 turnovers in 2 weeks from a quarterback whose entire identity was built on taking care of the football. Now, context still matters. Nico Collins was out with a concussion. Dalton Schultz left in the first quarter with a calf injury. The protection leaked. Not every interception was purely Stroud's fault. But the hardest ones to watch were the ones that looked familiar. The feet moving before the rush arrived. The ball leaving his hand a beat too early. The decision made not because of what was happening, but because of what he expected to happen based on every beating he'd absorbed over the past 2 years. After the game, Stroud said he felt like he'd let Houston down. No excuses, no deflection, just the weight of knowing an elite defense had kicked the door open for a championship run, and the offense couldn't walk through it. 5 weeks later, he called himself grateful for the suffering, because people would see how he responded. That line mattered. Not because suffering automatically makes a quarterback better. Football doesn't promise that. It mattered because Stroud understood something most 24-year-olds in his position won't say out loud. Nobody cares about the explanation anymore. They only care about the answer. One terrible afternoon can't define a career. But when it confirms a pattern that's been building across 2 full seasons, you can't wave it away either. And here's what still belongs in Stroud's column. He hasn't forgotten how to throw a football. His regular season efficiency bounced back in 2025. His sack avoidance improved dramatically. Houston made the playoffs in each of his first 3 seasons. Before New England, his postseason resume included poised, productive games. The Cleveland masterpiece as a rookie, the wild-card win over the Chargers in 2024. Those performances are still on the tape. The environment around him kept shifting. His receiver room lost key pieces every season. Houston changed linemen, changed play callers, and asked him to learn a developing system without a reliable ground game. The Texans finished 22nd in rushing after Joe Mixon missed the entire 2025 season. Dalton Schultz made the fairest point after New England. Not every mistake belonged to Stroud alone. Some of those interceptions don't happen if a defender isn't already in the quarterback's lap when the ball comes out. And that's the oldest trap in football. We give quarterbacks all the credit when things go right, and hand them the entire bill when things fall apart. The truth is always shared. But here's what nobody can deny. Pressure is the single clearest weakness in CJ Stroud's game right now. And cutting the sack total in half didn't fix it. The damage isn't in the stat sheet. It's in the half second between when the ball should leave and when it actually does. Houston says it still believes. The Texans exercised Stroud's fifth-year option, $25.9 million guaranteed for 2027. General manager Nick Caserio called it a no-brainer. Owner Cal McNair said the organization was fully committed. But notice what they haven't done. Will Anderson, drafted one pick after Stroud, already has a 3-year, $150 million extension. Stroud doesn't have his long-term deal. That's not abandonment, it's evaluation. The fifth-year option buys Houston time to watch him through 2027 before making the most expensive decision in franchise history. And the Texans spent this offseason reinforcing the wall around him. Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller up front. First-round guard Keelan Rutledge. David Montgomery to give the run game a physical, downhill identity. Blocking tight ends to keep Stroud out of the empty, collapsing pockets that haunted him for 2 straight years. Everything Houston can control, Houston is addressing. The linemen, the scheme, the run game, the personnel packages. But there's one thing the front office can't fix from the outside, and this is the scary truth. CJ Stroud has not become a bad quarterback. The arm is still elite. The efficiency came back. The football IQ that made him Rookie of the Year hasn't disappeared. The fear is quieter than that. It's that 2 years of punishment may have trained his body to react to a hit that hasn't arrived yet. That the flinch now comes before the pressure, not after it. That somewhere between the 52 sacks and the 4-interception snowstorm in Foxborough, the wiring shifted, and the quarterback who once stood still while the pocket closed around him now moves before he needs to. Houston can replace every lineman. It can add tight ends, establish the run, and design a system that gets the ball out fast. But only Stroud can prove he still trusts the pocket when it starts to shrink. Only he can stand in, see the open man, and deliver the football because of what's in front of him, not because of what's behind him. If he resets those instincts, the talent says Houston has a championship quarterback. The arm, the poise under the lights, the ability to win a game in 46 seconds. All of that is still in there. If he can't, an elite defense could spend its best years waiting for a version of Stroud that left the building 2 seasons ago and never fully walked back in. Remember the S2 test, the leaked score that said CJ Stroud's brain couldn't process a changing picture fast enough for the NFL. His rookie season buried that number so deep nobody brought it up again. 3 years later, the test is back. No screen this time, no lab, no score to leak. This version plays out under stadium lights, on 3rd and 8, on the road, in January. A playoff defense shows pressure before the snap and changes the picture after it. Stroud stands in the pocket. The crowd is deafening. The play clock is falling. And somewhere beneath the helmet, beneath the footwork, beneath every coaching adjustment Houston made this offseason, there's a timer running that nobody else can see. That timer decides everything. Does it tick at the speed of a quarterback reading the defense in front of him, or does it tick at the speed of a quarterback remembering every hit he's already taken? Stroud is the only one who knows, and this season is the only test that counts.